Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another YouTube live event with New Mexico Military Institute located here in Roswell, New Mexico. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Chris Ward, the Director of Domestic Admissions. We hope everybody's doing well out there. We know it's hard to come and see campus during this pandemic. We wanted to take a second and kind of have a session here where we talk to some of our recent alumni, let you get some insight on what their time was like when they were at NMMI, how NMMI impacted them, life after NMMI, whatever college they attended, and kind of helped guide them to the career that they have chosen. Just a couple of things to note. Admissions is currently open here at NMMI. The deadline for the fall semester is going to be July 23rd. We look forward to this session being engaging and very interactive. So if you have questions, please go ahead and send them hashtag NMMI Alumni, or you can type them into the YouTube chat, or send a snap to NMMI Life. So with that being said, let's go ahead and welcome our guests. The first person I'm going to introduce today is Will Wilson.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Will Wilson. I graduated from New Mexico Military Institute in 2008 from the high school and then the junior college in 2011. I now work as the junior college admissions counselor, and I look forward to answering any and all questions you might have tonight.
Thanks, Will. Now we're going to hear from Adrian Lopez.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian Lopez. I attended NMMI from 2010 to 2014, and I currently live in Kansas City, working at a bank in their commercial real estate office.
Okay, and last but not least, we're going to hear from Miss Violeta.
Hi, everyone. My name is Violeta Consolic. I am originally from Serbia, and I came to NMMI in 2015. I graduated in 2017, left for 2 years to finish my volleyball career and get my degree, and now I'm back at NMMI and teaching business classes.
Perfect. So I'm going to ask them a series of questions and kind of get their insight, and we're going to go ahead and bounce right back to Violeta. V, how did you hear about NMMI?
I actually did not really hear about NMMI until Coach Shelby contacted me, and she told me about volleyball program here at the Institute. For a little while, I was hesitant simply because of military. It scared me a little, but I've always wanted to come to the United States. So when I got the offer from NMMI, I was happy to come here, still scared and nervous, but excited to try something new.
And Will, what about you? How did you learn about NMMI?
I learned about New Mexico Military Institute from my parents. My grandfather actually was born in Roswell and actually graduated from NMMI in 1936. And it was always kind of an option for me growing up. And my mother's family lived about 90 miles northeast of Roswell in Portales, New Mexico. And one Christmas vacation, I decided to take a tour of the campus, and then about a week later I did the math test, and then I went through the admissions process, and the rest is history.
And Mr. Lopez, what about you? How did you learn about NMMI?
So I'm actually from Roswell and grew up in Roswell. So I, growing up, drove by it all the time. So it's a pretty omnipresent institution within the town. We would always see the cadets walking around, and so that's how I always had it on the back of my mind.
Okay, and then Will, what do you think in your mind after your experience as a cadet? What was the biggest advantage to attending New Mexico Military Institute for you?
I think the biggest advantage from attending the Institute was that I was better prepared for going on to my next college. After graduating from the Institute in 2011, I transferred down to Texas A&M University, and I think that I was better prepared for that environment in terms of time management and organizational skills that I learned here as a cadet. I was able to balance not only my academics, but also when I started working in order to pay rent and get utilities and stuff taken care of. So coming to the Institute prepared me for juggling everything and prioritizing my needs. So.
Okay, and Adrian, what about you? What do you think the biggest advantage to attending was?
I would kind of echo what Will said. I would say that I felt like I had better long-term options at the once I graduated, not just with respect to college, but even after college, having all of the experience that I had from NMMI and being able to talk about it, I think served me well, and I just feel like I got a better sense of independence, or formed a greater sense of independence, and was able to kind of find my own way after NMMI and after college. So I think those two were probably the most important takeaways from NMMI.
Okay, and then Violetta, what about you? What do you think the biggest advantage was?
I am going to agree with what both of them said. It really prepared me for what was coming next. It helped me with my time management. It helped me being on time. I was never known as someone who would make it on time. So attending NMMI, I had to learn how to be on time. And also speaking from an athlete position, strength conditioning program was amazing. So I feel that after I left, I was able to keep up with my academics, still play sports, and do well in all three of these programs: playing volleyball, attending school, and being able to keep up with their strength and conditioning program.
Okay, and real quick before we jump to the next question, I'm going to let Captain Wilson answer this, but we've got a question that came in, and it says, what are the dorms like, and do you have a roommate when you're a cadet at NMMI?
So that's a great question. So the dorms on campus are called barracks, in keeping with the military tradition. The way that rooms are assigned is that new cadets, all cadets are assigned a roommate, and the way that we typically do that is all cadets will have a roommate at the same grade level, and especially for our incoming new cadets, we typically try to keep your roommate in the same grade level as you. This provides you another layer of support. You'll have the same academic advisor, and you'll typically be in the same or a similar class as your roommate. So if you're struggling in one of your classes, they might be able to assist you with that class, and vice versa. So, and then we also, if you're a resident of the state of New Mexico, your roommate might be from out of state or one of our international cadets. And that's pretty cool, because it gives you the opportunity to learn about somebody from an entirely different region, and you kind of get a new viewpoint on life. Even though you both are the same age, you guys have come from entirely different places and have entirely different viewpoints, but it can be a life-changing experience, and definitely for the better.
Perfect. Adrian, what advice would you give to a cadet that has already, or an applicant that's been accepted for the fall semester or is considering applying for the fall semester? The best advice you can give them.
So if you have already been accepted, I would suggest just getting ready for what'll be a very wild and exciting time of your life. It's going to be like nothing that you've ever been through before, obviously. So, I would kind of suggest just, I don't know how prevalent it is nowadays. It certainly wasn't when I was going through the onboarding process. But if there's any sort of like a Facebook group or any other group of incoming students that you could maybe connect with before coming on campus, that might be a great resource to kind of familiarize yourself with people before getting on campus. So I think just getting ready for what's going to be a really neat and great time of your life, I think would be my advice.
Okay, and then Violetta, from a faculty perspective, what's one piece of great advice you can give to a student that's considering NMMI or that's already been accepted to attend here in the fall?
I would say be open-minded and be patient. There will be days that it gets rough, that it is hard, that you want to go home, that you're not even sure why you're here, but be open-minded, be patient, because in the end, it will be worth it. And I think this is the advice I would give from a former cadet's perspective and also a faculty. Just wait, it'll pass, and don't be afraid to ask for help. There are people that want to talk to you, and if you want just to talk and you want them to listen, they can do that.
And then Will, as a admissions counselor, what's the one great nugget of advice that you give to all families you talk to that are interested, have already been accepted, or just in the admissions process?
I'd say that the best thing once you've been accepted is to, we're constantly working to communicate with both cadets or prospective cadets that have been accepted, while simultaneously working with new applications. Sometimes we might not be able to respond to you as quickly as possible. If you have any questions about anything, whether it be for your application file or if you're having questions about any of the extracurricular activities, please don't hesitate to call or email your admissions counselor. And if they're not available, one of us on the team would be more than happy to speak with you. And if it's something that we can handle, advocate for you with one of the other departments or anything like that. It's always, I would say communication is probably the biggest piece of advice.
Okay, and a couple of questions that came in. The first one is, when is the last day of the spring semester? Finals are going to be the second week of May. So we should be done around May 15th, barring any hiccups or anything like that. We've created kind of a bubble environment. So classes started here January 19th, and we're going to roll straight through until graduation that second week of May. Another question, is the July 23rd deadline for admissions the same for high school and junior college? Absolutely. We don't have admit dates. We have rolling admissions. So you apply now, you get everything turned in by, Friday or Monday of next week. We'll have a decision to you within about 48 hours unless there's some extra paperwork that we might need. And tentatively, that's the tentative deadline right now, is July 23rd. Next question for V. V, you came over as an international student. So what was the adjustment like for you at NMMI living so far from home?
It was definitely not easy. I was on the other side of the world without anyone but my teammates. It took some time for me to adjust to different foods, different culture, to me wearing a uniform, marching to lunch, dinner, breakfast, and everything. But I had amazing friends, and bonds that I had created here have lasted for a long time. And all it took was finding that one person who was ready to push me whenever I needed that push. And I had many friends that were willing to do that. So if you are an international student and you're worried about being alone, I promise you, you're not going to be alone when you come here.
And then Mr. Lopez, you graduated from NMMI High School in 2014 and then attended Truman State, I believe, in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Correct.
Can you explain how was the academic support here when you were a cadet, and how did it compare to the academic support you got at Truman State in Missouri?
So I won't shortchange either. I mean, Truman State had a ton of resources, from student tutors to the faculty who made their office hours very widely publicized and strongly encouraged all of us to attend. And there were also tutoring sessions that were put up by the individual departments. And so as using that as a comparison, my undergrad experience, I would say that NMMI had, for its level, just an equally comparable level of academic support. I mean, if I recall correctly, when I was there, I'm sure it's still the case, but the faculty would arrive, I think, like an hour or so before classes would start. So if you needed, assistance on homework or getting ready for a test or anything, they were available, and some of them would stick around after hours as well. And then I'm sure it's still a thing, like when I was there, but nightly study hall, from which I think was Sunday to Thursday, which I think was just 2.5 hours dedicated homework time. And you could go to the library and, get the assistance of whoever was there, or be it a faculty member or other students. So I would say that NMMI has a great academic support system, comparable to anything you would find at an undergraduate institution.
And Will, what about you? What about your comparison between the academic support at NMMI and then, going to Texas A&M?
I would say that the academic support I received at the Institute was definitely put me in a better position for when I transferred down to Texas A&M. I did receive a support system at A&M, but unlike at the Institute, I had to do some research and find those resources. So it was definitely a lot of more legwork on my end versus at the Institute, where we have night study hall. So you're either in your room studying or you're in one of the classrooms or the library. Probably I was better prepared at A&M because of my time at the Institute. So.
And Violetta, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here. As a faculty member, can you talk about how much of your daily time outside of the classroom instruction is focused on cadet support, academic support, between study hall, office hours early, who runs night study hall, the math lab, the writing center? Maybe explain the early warning system a little bit if you guys are tuned in and track on that as well.
Oh my. So when it comes to how much time I spend working with cadets outside the classroom, there are days that there's someone in my office every single period that I'm off. Because of COVID, this semester and last semester, we have removed that morning tutoring because we're trying to limit contact. So we don't really offer that in the morning, but as soon as we go back to lowering some of our restrictions, that morning 45 minutes of tutoring is going to be offered again. All of us teachers and faculty members, we have office hours and we're in our office whenever we're not in class. And there's always someone stopping by asking for help, or sometimes cadets come to my office just to talk. I usually have candy for them, so that might be one reason why they come. When it comes to night study hall, for first 4 weeks of fall and spring semester, we have mandatory night study hall for all incoming cadets. And they're guided night study halls, which means that there's always an instructor present in the room with them, and they help them work through their homework, study for quizzes. If they're a freshman in high school and their teachers are making it mandatory for them to keep notes and organize them in specific way, this instructor is there to help them. And this happens Sunday through Thursday night. When it comes to early warning system, all faculty members have access to it, and it helps us notify the dean and commandant's staff of how well students are performing in our classroom. So we have something called green academic flag. So every day when students are active in my classroom, I give them a green flag for participation or positive attitudes or making good notes. There's many different green flags that we can give them. We also have the option to give them a red flag, which means that maybe they're falling asleep in class. So right away, we are not getting them in trouble, but it is like a yellow light. Hey, you're here, you need to pay attention to staying awake in class. Don't let this happen. So instead of us actually sticking these cadets and making them march, we put it in early warning system. One very amazing thing about early warning system is that we have a blue flag as well, which sends the message to all parents. And if I say that, hey, your kid was doing amazing today in class, parent is going to get that and they will be able to see the report. And I believe that reports are being sent out every Friday.
Real quick, a couple of questions that came in online. You guys are doing great. The first one is, how many do many students enroll for their junior year of high school? Yes, absolutely. The biggest incoming class that we have every year is going to be junior college freshmen. The second biggest is high school freshmen, then high school sophomores, and then our junior college class. We're always looking for between 30 or 50 students that meet the criteria that we can get accepted and get graduated in time. So yes, we bring in students for their junior and senior year of high school. Next question, great question. How will you know when you're accepted? Once you're accepted, it gets coded into our database and it generates an email that goes out instantaneously. So you'll receive an email, and within 24 hours, you'll also get a phone call and an email from your admissions counselor. And then you'll get a hard copy acceptance letter in the mail as well. So you will know relatively within one business day. Another quick question, it's a great question. Can you visit NMMI with a scheduled appointment? Absolutely. We are still giving campus tours Monday through Friday from 8:30 till about 3:30 in the afternoon. You can call the office, schedule an appointment with us there. You can go online, select tour NMMI, fill out the form there. We try to limit it to one student and 2 family members. Everybody has to wear a mask during the tour. When you arrive on campus, we'll do a quick temperature screening, and then one of the counselors will take you around. Campus tours are a little bit limited right now. We try to keep any guests at a safe distance away from cadets. So we're not able to get into the classroom buildings, see the inside of a classroom. We do a quick walkthrough through the dorm areas, but we can't get into a showroom and actually show you the inside of a dorm currently. But for the most part, you'll get a chance to get a firsthand look at campus for about 75% of campus. Last question right now, are you requiring an SAT or ACT in the fall semester? Absolutely. We offer the ACT and the SAT on site for cadets and students in the community, in the Roswell community. Also, all of our students that are here on Academy Prep for the Academy Prep program have to retake that exam in the fall and the spring, so we will have that. It is mandatory for high school juniors and seniors, I believe. Violetta can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is a mandatory requirement for those students in high school. So let's jump back over to Adrian. Adrian, when you were a cadet, talk to everybody about what free time or non-academic options were available when you had some free time. This doesn't include core PT or cadet activities, just when you actually had some free time, what was there for you to do, or what did you participate in, whether it was the game room or something else?
Oh gosh, so I will say that your busy time does constitute more of your day than free time. So with that caveat, um, I guess on the weekends, there was, I don't remember exactly the terminology for it, but I think it was like general release or something on Friday afternoons from I think 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and so that was free time that you had to leave campus. You could go across the street to I think Dairy Queen was a pretty popular place when I was there, or the golf course across the street that belonged to the Institute. Yeah, or if you so chose, there was, I think it was called furloughs that you could take every once in a while. And so, like I said, I was actually from Roswell, and so that's where my family was, and so it was a little easier for me to be able to go away for a weekend and stay over at my parents' place overnight. And so aside from that, like Chris was mentioning, the game room was always a pretty fun place. I'm not sure if y'all still have it, but there was a bowling alley when I was there. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options. That being said, as I mentioned earlier, your busy time doing homework or core activities or going to school or whatever it is probably take up more of your time throughout any given day. So hope that helps.
Absolutely. Real quick, just want to take a second again and stress that admissions, application review, and everything is still open at NMMI. You can go online. You'll click on the admissions tab, and there's a button that says apply now, and it gives you two options. You can apply now for the high school or apply now for the college. And again, we covered it earlier. The deadline for fall admissions is going to be July 23rd. Will, talk to me a little bit, or talk to everybody watching a little bit about your experience with leadership at NMMI.
Okay. Well, my experience with leadership here at the Institute, everyone entering the Institute starts as what's called a recruit at training, or RAT. And from there, the leadership model is based off the crawl, walk, run method. As a new cadet or RAT and then new cadet, you're learning what it is to be a member of the Corps of Cadets, how to wear the uniform, how to march, all the military courtesies and traditions. At the same time, our old cadets are teaching you how to be a member of the Corps. You'll also be put into some of the lower level leadership positions, assistant team leader, squad leader. And from there, you and your peers will be thrust into these leadership positions. And as you gain experience, you'll move up in the leadership positions. And when you transition from being a new cadet to a yearling or old cadet, that's when you'll actually be able to be eligible for promotion in cadet rank and actually be put in those leadership positions officially. We have leadership positions ranging from, like I said, assistant team leader all the way up to the regimental commander, which is the highest position in the Corps of Cadets here at NMMI.
Perfect. A bit about your experience as a female cadet in the Corps of Cadets. Females make up roughly between 22 and 30% of the Corps. And then elaborate beyond that, your experience as an athlete, a junior college athlete in the Corps of Cadets.
Like Adrian said, you're pretty busy, but there's always time to have fun and also learn some leadership skills. So when I first came to the Institute, I had a rough time adjusting, and especially for me, it was rough because I have two younger brothers and I was used to being in charge. And then I came here and I was not in charge anymore, and I had to take order from someone who was probably 5 years younger than me. So that was extremely hard on me. And then being a female, again, was rough at the beginning. But once I actually let NMMI in and I kind of became more open-minded to what it had to offer, it became so much easier. After some time, I was able to move up in ranks, and I ended up being executive officer for Bravo Troop. With each leadership position that you get, you have more responsibility. So I ended up being in charge of roughly 75 cadets, combined high school and college. I took care of all paperwork and all rosters, promotions, demotions. I believe I was the only other female in my troop that had a leadership position. I will not lie, it can be hard sometimes as a female just because there is way more males, the ratio is, so it's a little bit harder to find friends when it comes to that area. But then again, it has so many benefits to it. It really taught me how to be more confident, how to speak up when I had to say something, how to simply believe in myself and my gut feeling in a way. And I think that athletics at NMMI are a great way to teach you all these skills as well. Being a volleyball player and doing junior college here and having leadership position, I barely had any free time. And it took a lot of time for me to adjust to all of it, but in the end, it was all worth it for a couple of reasons. I had great friends and all of these people who were pushing me to do better.
Okay, and then Will, what's the admissions math placement exam like? And any tips that you can provide a student that's considering or has already applied for admissions to NMMI regarding that?
Sure. So the math placement exam that we use for our admissions process for our high school candidates, it's a math placement exam. It is not a pass-fail test. Our goal is to see at what level of math that you're at and whether or not you're at the correct level for the grade level for which you're applying for here at NMMI. For our high school freshman and sophomore candidates, the required score is a minimum of 30. For our high school juniors, it's a minimum score on the pre-algebra math placement exam is a 60. And then for our high school senior applicants, it's a minimum of 70 or better for the Algebra 1 math placement exam. And the math placement exam, we can, if you're visiting campus, we can set you for the test in our testing center in our office, or if you're not able to take it on post with us, we can send it to you via email and you'll be able to take it through a lockdown browser program and get your test results right away. So I believe you as an applicant have about 2 to 3 attempts for the scores. So best advice I would give is just if you haven't brushed up on your math, on your pre-algebra or algebra 1, I'd work on that for a little bit till you feel comfortable, and then speak to your admissions counselor, and then we'll get you set up for testing.
Adrian, I'm going to make you dig back in the memory banks here, but can you explain what a typical day's like at NMMI, kind of Monday through Friday? What time you wake up, lunch, class time, after classes are over, kind of all the way through?
Yeah, long stroll down memory lane. So normally wake up around 5:30. Get ready to present yourself at formation at 6 in the morning for a roll call. And then we would march to breakfast. There would be, I think, announcements either at the beginning or the end of it. And you'd eat your breakfast, go back to your room and get yourself prepared and situated for class. And so I think your first class would generally start at 7:55 or 8 o'clock or something like that. And then everyone would have the lunch hour that we would march to. I think there was maybe one day throughout the week that it was just a free meal, I think is what it was called, where there wasn't an actual formation. It was just kind of a come and go meal. And then you'd have your afternoon classes, and then for myself, after class, I would typically go to track practice, or so other people to go to whatever sport it was, or if they weren't, they would go to core physical training. And then there would be dinner formation, so everyone marching to dinner, and then eat your dinner, more announcements about the day, and then night study hall for I think, like I said, 2 hours or 2.5 hours. Then I'm not sure if obviously I'm not sure if it's still done, but I think towards the end of my time at NMMI, they would open the mess hall at 9:30 for kind of a midnight snack, so to speak, for half an hour, and then taps would play at 10 o'clock. So that was the point at which you were expected to go to bed, or some people would stay up doing homework, but otherwise everybody was expected to be in their rooms. And then you wake up and do it again the next day.
Quick question that came in, and I'll try to answer this and then let Will chime in. He works with the junior college applicants, but the question is there a deadline to apply for the ECP program? No. One thing you have to know about that, there is a application you have to fill out for senior ROTC to apply for the ECP program. And you also have to fill out the application for admissions to NMMI for the junior college. The second part of that is what percentage of people will assess or receive an active duty slot after they commission. It comes and goes. It really just depends on how you assess. In years past, there were ways that you could kind of circumvent the system and guarantee that active duty assessment. Thank goodness we're not at war right now. So active duty slots are fewer and far between. So again, it just kind of depends. Even students that graduate from a service academy aren't guaranteed an active duty assessment at this time. Will, did I miss anything on that?
No. If I can piggyback off what you said, the application to NMMI and the ROTC application, a lot of the paperwork that you'll use for your initial application into NMMI will also be used for your ROTC application. So your physical transcripts, if you send any test scores to our office, we will share those with the ROTC recruiting officer, and we can get that squared away. Because of the pandemic, standardized testing has been canceled or rescheduled for students across the country. if you're unable to get a test scheduled, you should be able to enter the ROTC program on a probationary status and get enrolled into that program once you've matriculated into NMMI and you can test here on site. We are actually one of the testing centers in the state of New Mexico for both the ACT and SAT. So we can help our prospective ROTC candidates get that testing requirement out of the way and then get you contracted into the program proper. So.
Perfect. V, as an international student when you attended NMMI, did New Mexico Military Institute help you with the I-20 process?
Yes. NMMI took care of it. They already had I-20 ready for me and they mailed it to me, and I believe I received it 48 hours after they mailed it or something like that, because I had to take my I-20 to the embassy in order to get my visa. And once you have your I-20, all you need to do before you leave the country, if you decide to go back home, you take it to, I forgot, to be honest, who does it now, and she's going to sign it for you. So on your way in and out of the country, you don't have any issues with your status.
And then right back to you, V, can you talk a little bit about what the athletics system is like here at NMMI?
Yes. We have so many different sports when it comes to male and female sports, as well as high school and junior college. I played volleyball for junior college, and what that looks like, it's you go to class and you're expected to have good grades. Your coaches are wanting you to get A's and B's. They don't really accept C's. So we always had dedicated time to study. Even when we were on the road, we were still expected to take care of our homework. When it comes to practice time, practices were usually for us about 2 hours. And we had team lift on Sundays during our season. During season, we were gone a lot. We played all these big tournaments and our conference games. And then in off season or in the spring semester, when we were not playing, we focused on strength and conditioning program and played very few scrimmages. Started practicing back maybe in February or beginning of March. However, we were not allowed to play any major games at the time. And even now, all teams go through pretty much the same thing. It's 2 to 3 hour practice, team lift 1 day of the week, and then whenever you are in season, you're expected to take strength and conditioning class that you have 2 times a week, where you go in and get another lift. Now, when it comes to you going and getting scholarship to play somewhere else, most of our athletic programs end up sending all of their athletes to good schools, good competitive programs. I actually, after leaving NMMI, attended 2 different schools on a volleyball scholarship. I first went to Central Methodist University in Missouri, where I played my junior year. And after that, I decided to transfer, and I finished my playing career in Union College in Kentucky. And one thing that I believe we already mentioned that, but I was prepared for what came after. Athletics program here is amazing, and you are well prepared for whatever is coming at your next school.
I think one thing to add to that is just on the high school side, we have a full slate of high school sports that are offered. None of those are mandatory at all. I think the flip side of them not being mandatory is we also don't cut any high school students that want to participate. So if you're coming from someplace and you never had the opportunity to play football and you want to play high school football, Coach Montoya and his staff would love to have you out. They're not going to cut anybody. Of course, your ability to earn playing time is going to be dependent upon your athletic ability, but they gladly welcome everybody who wants to play a sport to come on board. Outside of that, we also have core PT. Athletic time counts as your core PT every day. If you don't play a sport Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all the cadets participate in core PT. It's geared towards the individual cadet. There's not a baseline standard that everybody has to meet. So if you come in and you run a 12-minute mile, we don't expect you overnight to run a 7-minute mile. What we want to see is progress throughout the year. So they'll test your physical fitness on day 1, and then day 200 when you leave for summer. They're going to test you again, and they just want to see progress and stress the importance of physical fitness in your life going forward. Real quick, we'll go through everybody on this one. Adrian, first thing that comes to mind when I say, what do you think is a main reason that cadets are not successful at NMMI?
I would say closed-mindedness, probably. Just being unwilling to compromise and being unwilling to be open to other points of view, I think is generally a formula for failure at the Institute. You would think that being at a military school would equate to conformity of thought, but I think being willing to accept a diversity of opinion is definitely key at the Institute.
And Mr. Wilson, what about you? One word, what do you think is one reason that cadets are not successful at NMMI?
I don't know if I can say it in one word. I think the best way that I can explain it is when my dad and his best friend, who's actually a graduate of the Institute as well, they told me before I left, they said, play the game. The Corps of Cadets is the military part of the school. All of our cadets here are not required to join the ROTC department, but all of the cadets wear the cadet uniform. You will march, you'll shave. I say this as I have a full beard. I understand the irony. You have to do these things in order to be a part of the Corps. If you buy into that and realize that this is what you have to do in order to be successful here, you will be successful. If you don't, you will put yourself into a hole that you might not be able to get out of. So best thing I can say is play the game.
And Violetta, what about you? What's one thing that comes to mind that makes cadets unsuccessful at NMMI?
I was actually going to say the thing that Adrian said, because I really think that if you're not open-minded, it's not going to work out. We can all be so stuck in our ways sometimes and not willing to compromise anything or to change just a little bit. And that can be a big downfall. But I'll also add that some people quit too early because they're scared. I was ready to quit after week 2 and I wanted to go home. I called my dad and told him, I cannot do this. This is just not for me. I'm ready to come home. And he told me, okay, are you sure? So I said, yes, I'm ready to come home. I don't want to do this. He was like, okay, well, I will pay for your ticket tomorrow. And then when you come home, you can explain to everyone that you're a quitter. You decided to quit because it was too hard. So that kind of hurt me. So I decided to show him I wasn't a quitter. If I would have left 5-6 years ago, I wouldn't be here, and I don't know where I would be. But I think that sometimes we quit too early, thinking we can handle it, and we can.
The old guilt tripping method.
Yes, it worked.
Real quick, a couple of questions that came in online. Please keep those coming in. One, do we have a powerlifting program? So I talked about cadet activities earlier. Tuesday, Thursday, instead of core PT, after classes are over, you'll have cadet activities. Those range from typical military school activities, drill team, color guard, to robotics. We've got a paintball club. We don't have a powerlifting club presently, but at any time it takes 5 or 6 cadets that have an interest in something, and then they've got to find a faculty staff sponsor and they can create a powerlifting club. All cadets do have access to what we call the Godfrey Athletic Center, the GAC. Basically, it's a student rec center. There's machine weights, elliptical machines, bikes, treadmills, free weights, a swimming pool. So there is places where you can get a good workout in depending on what you're looking for on campus. Again, I just kind of touched on this with cadet activities. Is there something about robotics? We do have a robotics club available. Will, here, this one's for you. Can you get a commission into the armed forces even though it's a 2-year college?
Yes. So we have 2 military programs on post. The larger of the 2 is the Army ROTC Early Commissioning Program, and that's the main program for cadets that are interested in pursuing a commission. You will commission into the Army straight from NMMI. The other program for cadets interested in commissioning in the military is the Service Academy Prep Program. That's a little different from the early commissioning program in that this prepares prospective cadets for entrance into any of the 5 service academies. The Military Academy at West Point, U.S. Naval Academy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marine Academies. Our part of the prep program is to prepare you for the academic rigors as well as the nomination process and being part of the Corps of Cadets at your respective academy. By going to the academies, of course, upon graduating from there, you're commissioned as a second lieutenant or an ensign, depending on whatever branch of service you went into, and then you'll begin your military career after 4 years at your academy. So those are the general ways on how you can commission from NMMI.
Next question, are there online NMMI visits available? Answer to that is absolutely. We talked earlier about if you wanted to schedule a campus tour, you go to the admissions homepage, click on the button that says take a tour, and there's an option to set up an online info session and then campus visit. When you do that, the admissions counselor that is assigned to your class level, whether it's high school freshman, incoming junior college freshman, will get in touch with you. They'll set up a Zoom meeting, answer a bunch of questions, and then there's actually a link to an online campus tour that our cadets put on. And you get to see, I think, 8 or 9 different buildings inside of these buildings that are on campus, and the cadets kind of talk about the main function of each of those buildings. Next question, how are electronics, phones, laptops, computers managed at NMMI? All accepted students that come for the fall or the spring semester are issued an NMMI laptop. So you do not need to bring a laptop with you. You're more than welcome to bring one, but one will be provided for you during your time on post. Phones are welcome. Phones can be a distraction, so there's a time and a place that cadets can have their phones out. We used to not allow phones the first 21 days for the new cadets. We've since changed from that because it gives us an ability of safety that we haven't had in the past because of technology. So if something happens and we need to lock campus down, with cadets having access to a cell phone, we can do so in about 5 minutes. Extracurricular classes. So all students will have an academic advisor, whether they're in high school or junior college. They will set your schedule. Your schedule is going to be dependent, one, upon what you transfer in from your previous school. So even 8th graders, what classes did you take? What are you going to transfer in? The other impact on your class schedule is how you score on that math placement exam will help determine what math class you are in. And then each cadet is open to 1 to 2 hours of elective courses, depending on what your course load looks like. This can range from stained glass, art, choir band. It just kind of depends. But you will have an academic advisor that will work on that schedule with you during your tenure here as a cadet. Last question, and then we'll jump back on course here with some stuff that we've got for our guests. If a student was homeschooled, is there an SSAT requirement? No, there is not. We'll need the classes you took when you were homeschooled so that we can put that in your cadet file. You'll still take the math placement exam, but we do not have an SSAT requirement at all. Let's go ahead and start with V here. V, what was the biggest challenge? You kind of touched on this earlier, but what do you think was the biggest challenge you had while at NMMI?
At least for me, it was not really understanding everything. I came from a country where English is not my first language, and I had hard time understanding what they wanted me to do. I got in a bit of a trouble my probably third day of being here. An officer stopped me and got mad at me because I did not salute to him. And honestly, I had no idea what that meant. So I just looked at him like, salute, like, what is that? So he got even more frustrated, and with me not really understanding what he was meaning by drop me and what is this on my hat, and I said a diamond. That was not a good answer, so don't try that. But for me, language was the biggest challenge.
Mr. Lopez, what about you? What was the biggest challenge you had?
I would say probably just the grasping the whole military concept. So, you know, like as has been mentioned throughout the evening, just the day being so structured, and then all of the military traditions and processes that we would follow were kind of hard to grasp. But it's funny funny that I bring that up, I guess, because I was going through some old boxes the other day, and I actually stumbled across my my NMMI Blue Book, which is the kind of the Bible, I guess, that of NMMI. And so it outlines pretty much everything from how you should arrange your room, how you should march, pretty much how you should do everything. So it's pretty funny looking through that and refamiliarizing myself, or I guess looking through what life used to be like all those years ago.
And Will, what about you? What was the biggest challenge you had?
I don't, not to say that I didn't have any challenges. I don't think I had as many challenges as Adrian or V. I came from a military family. Both my parents were teachers, so I kind of always had structure in the scheduling. I was a little bit of a free spirit as a cadet, so I'd say the biggest challenge was probably keeping in line. Yeah, just behaving in general, probably. Yes.
Lopez, was there, I mean, did you have a mentor when you were here, somebody that kind of helped you out when you were having a rough day? I know that you're from Roswell, but you know, it could be a faculty member, a staff member. I mean, was there somebody that kind of mentored you, you know, picked you up a little bit, brushed your shoulders off for you, and then kind of pushed you back out the door?
Yeah, definitely. My math teacher for I think a couple years, I think junior and senior year. I don't know if she's still there, Colonel Martinez. But yeah, I mean, she was always a great resource and was always helpful to talk to. even just having a rough day, outside of homework, she was always a great person to talk to. And then outside of that, just you really develop a support system with your whatever friends you make while you're there, be it your roommate or someone that lives 2 doors down. So, yeah.
Violetta, what about you? Anybody that stuck out outside of volleyball and Shelby?
Okay. I will say my roommate, my freshman year, that poor girl had to deal with a lot, from helping me braid my hair to teaching me all rifle movements in our room to, I mean, just everything. I'm pretty sure for the first month, she was putting my uniform for me because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. She would listen to me just vent and cry, and she was amazing. So I think roommates can often be our best resource.
And then Will, what about you?
Could you repeat the question? I was kind of listening to Adrian and Violetta's answers.
Anybody, I mean, just somebody that maybe stuck out as a mentor for you while you were here that, again, kind of picked you up when you were having a bad day, could be a faculty, a staff member.
I would say that it would be Lieutenant Colonel Smith. He was my academic advisor when I came as a RAT in 2006. He was now the director of the Tolles Learning Resource Center, which is our library and kind of student services building. He was always there during office hours to let us blow off some steam. If we were having a bad day, we could always drop in. And usually if we were misbehaving or if we were just having a bad day, he would be the person to kick us in the butt on the way out the door and say, you can do this, go get it, and have a great day. It's just kind of that person that you need. And then some of my peers that were old cadets as incoming junior in high school, I still keep in touch with them. They taught us how to wear the uniform, but they also kind of taught us to take pride in our appearance and stuff like that, which we still do today. So.
I will add to that because my roommate was a prep, and she took pride in her uniform, which taught me how to take pride in wearing uniform that I never thought I'd be wearing.
And I think this segments into the next question. And again, I'll let each of you kind of throw your 2 cents in on this. But Lopez, you can go first. Talk about the friendships that you made while you were a cadet at NMMI and how those friendships have stayed with you to this day.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually have tomorrow. I have a phone call with one of my best friends from NMMI. So when I was a first sergeant, my senior year, she was my platoon sergeant, and so we've kept up with each other. And there's a few other people from I think my freshman and sophomore year of NMMI that I've kept in contact with. So, it's always kind of fun talking about the old days, but because of just the bonds that you form, that, NMMI is such a unique place that you're able to, bond over those stories later on in your life down the road, that, not a lot of other people will be able to understand, but that you both know is, a pretty neat experience that both of y'all went through together.
Will, what about you?
So I'm going to echo what Adrian said. The friendships you'll form here will last a lifetime. A lot of the classmates that I graduated from the high school and then later on from the junior college, I talk to nearly every day, whether that's via text or social media. And since working in the office as the admissions counselor, I travel around the state of New Mexico and even around the country for recruiting fairs. And if I go someplace, I try to find a friend or a classmate who lives there just so I can catch up with them over a meal, or if it's even if it's just a quick, hey, how's it going, like that. And then the other thing too is that I'd probably say that's a little different or interesting is the friendships of alumni that have graduated 20, 30, or 40 years before I did, but meeting them through homecoming events in the fall semester or the NMMI trail ride during the summer. We share a bond by having gone through the Institute, although we both entered and left NMMI at different times. We're still connected by this wonderful place. And a lot of the things they did, we did as well. And it's kind of cool to, when you're out and about, say, oh, I was marching tours on a Saturday, and they can say, oh, you were marching tours. I did as well in Hagerman Barracks on the weekend. And kind of, it's an easy icebreaker. So way to build a good, solid friendship.
Violetta, I saw a lot of head nodding there. Anything you want to add to that about your friendships?
They said almost everything, but I absolutely agree. Friendships that you make here will last you for a lifetime. My best friend is actually, she was my volleyball player, also my teammate, and also lived right next to me. So it just stays with you. And I think it's interesting how even after I went to 2 different schools, there's always someone who knows someone who went to NMMI. And I think it's just amazing.
A couple more questions that came in. Go ahead and keep those coming. First one, what qualities are the admissions office looking for in a cadet? You know, as the admissions director, I think we're looking for, you know, high school and junior college students that are hungry for learning, hungry for a challenge. And then, you know, kind of what these alumni talked about, somebody who's open-minded, you know, not going to run away after a week or two. You know, this place is challenging. We do want cadets that want to be here. We also know that a lot of our cadets here are here for a reason, not because they want to be here. You know, Violetta is an example. She came on a volleyball scholarship and used the Institute as a platform to get where she wanted to go. So any cadet that, or any student that is interested in that, is the type of student that we're looking for. You know, we're about second chances. If you've had a mistake in your past, you were a teenager, we understand that. You know, but, you know, it's still going to be a hard road to toe when you come here as a cadet. So anybody that's hungry and looking for a challenge is the type of prospective cadet that we're looking for. Roommates, next question. Can relatives share a room? First year, absolutely not. Typically what you'll see when a cadet comes in, they're going to be placed, as was discussed earlier, with a roommate that is their same age and is also a first year, first semester cadet. We try to place them with somebody who has completely different interests, maybe somebody from a completely different culture, and it helps that assimilation process. After that first year, you can kind of pick and choose your roommate as long as you're in good standing. Of course, if you have rank, it allows you a little more freedom to have some more choices along the way. Can a student attend as a high school senior? Absolutely. I think the 2 biggest pieces for incoming high school seniors is you have to score well on that math test in order for us to be able to get you graduated on time. The other piece with high school seniors is there's a sequence with history courses that you have to take, and that sequence has to be in order. So if you're applying as a junior in high school to start your senior year, the sooner you can get us transcripts and the sooner we can get you tested through the admissions math placement exam, the sooner we'll know kind of what we're looking at and if we can get you graduated in 1 year. Are the students that tested positive for COVID when we came back for the spring semester going to be tested again? They will be in quarantine for 10 or 14 days. Once they clear that process, they will test them again. As long as it's a negative test, they will be assimilated into the Corps of Cadets. I believe right now we've got 7 students left that are in quarantine. Once they clear, they will assimilate in, and then we have created this bubble. So cadet interaction is encouraged in the bubble. We just try to eliminate and mitigate any outside risks that might bring COVID onto campus. Are students allowed to take French and Spanish in the same semester? Violetta, do you know the answer to that? Can they take 2 foreign languages the same semester?
I'm honestly not sure. I don't see why they wouldn't be allowed to, but that would be a question for English department.
I think a lot of it too would depend on your course load. It's a lot like taking 2 math classes in the same semester. It's going to depend on what your course load looks like, number one. Number two, if your academic advisor thinks that you can handle that type of course load. What year are you allowed to take junior college languages like Arabic and Mandarin? Again, that's going to depend on where you're at. If you're a high school student and you have met a lot of the requirements for high school graduation, then yes, you can take some junior college classes. It's going to depend kind of on the individual student and where you are at. Typically, you don't see a whole lot of freshmen and sophomores in high school taking junior college coursework. The flip side of that, Adrian, when you graduated from high school, how many college credits did you have?
Yeah, I was going to jump in really quickly. So I actually finished with 30 hours done. So basically my entire freshman year of college done. So I was only an undergrad for 3 years. So, that saved quite a bit of money tuition-wise, and was able to get a head start in, employment. So definitely a great benefit.
I know as far as my department and the way we do things is if we realize that we have a strong cadet who has good grades, and instead of taking senior economics, we push them in junior college classes to either take macroeconomics or microeconomics.
Just a couple more questions. How does sending and receiving mail work? So all cadets are issued a P.O. box on campus. We actually have a fully functioning post office on campus, so they can buy stamps, get packages. They can send packages from the post office, receive stuff. If a package comes in for a cadet, they put a little slip in their mail slot. They'll pull that slip out, take it to the front desk, and the package will be issued to that cadet. Are cadets allowed to leave for the weekends? I believe Adrian talked about a weekend furlough earlier. So once cadets are through with the 21-day phase and then I think 48 days in a typical year, they can apply for a weekend furlough. If they're granted that furlough, they can check out and leave post after their last class on Friday afternoon. They have to be back Sunday in time for dinner roll call, so dinner formation. That is the only time that you will see cadets on post during the school year in civilian clothes. The rest of the time, they're going to be in some form of uniform, whether that's a PT gear, BDUs, Class A, just depending. But that would be the only time you'll see cadets in civilian clothes. Typically, 1 or 2 furloughs is granted a semester. Again, it depends on rank, how long cadets have been here. Last question, then I'm going to go back to the guests. If I attend NMMI, can I join the Coast Guard? You absolutely can. NMMI is an Army-based school, so our senior ROTC department and our ECP program are geared for the Army specifically. We do serve as a prep school for all the service academies. Will mentioned that earlier. So if you wanted to come and your end goal was to be in the Coast Guard, you can still take Military Science 1 and 2 and Military Science 3 and 4. But when you leave NMMI, you're going to have to transfer to a college that has a Coast Guard program so that you can get your commission and slide into the Coast Guard from there. Will, anything you want to add to that?
That's actually a great question. We do have, you touched on it just a minute ago, when cadets come to NMMI and take, and they're just here for the regular academics, oftentimes by coming to NMMI, you might be on the fence about joining the military. NMMI is a way for you to see what life is like in the military to a certain degree. And those military science 1 and 2 courses are your basic leadership courses, but they are a college class. And say if you were to decide to join an ROTC department at your next school that had either Army ROTC, Navy, Air Force, or Marine Corps ROTC, the military science credit you accrued here at the Institute would transfer with you, and you could just roll into that ROTC program, much like you would here at NMMI. So.
All right, last big question for each of you. I'm going to start with Adrian on this one. What's the most important thing you learned about yourself at NMMI?
I would say just developing the ability to listen before speaking and observing before like forming an opinion or anything. So your first year, at my first year of NMMI at least, I was just trying to steer clear from trouble. So a lot of times I was just trying to fly under the radar and try not to get noticed, so that, you know, lest there be any sort of punishment coming from wherever. So it just, like I said, listening before speaking, and I think would probably be one of the biggest takeaways.
And Violetta, what about you? What's the biggest lesson you learned about yourself at NMMI?
I would say the biggest lesson that I learned from NMMI is that I can do it. I came here and it was hard and I wanted to leave, and I ended up staying. I ended up graduating on top of my graduating class, so I can do it. I can graduate from here. I did not want a leadership role. I was given that role. I did it, and it was hard, but I did it. I never thought I'd be able to stand in front of a group of people or 10 or more people and present or talk or teach, but I'm teaching right now. So I think biggest lesson is that I can do it if I set my mind to it.
And then Will, what about you? What's the most important thing you learned about yourself at NMMI?
I'd say that there were the most important thing I learned as a cadet was that it's very similar to what Violetta said in hers. I was much more capable of handling anything that the Institute threw at me than I thought I was. I was better prepared. I was physically, mentally, ethically. By coming to the Institute, there were times where I often had doubts, but my peers and my cadet leadership and the commandant staff and the faculty and staff here at the Institute, they said, you can do this, you just need to stick to it and do it. And I could do it. That's what I'd say I would learn that's the most important thing I learned as a cadet. The second thing that I learned actually was when I returned to NMMI as a part of the staff. I met a number of great cadets, one of them being, two of them actually, Cadet Diego Salido and Cadet Violeta Quintana. They actually taught me that an old dog like myself can learn new tricks. They help me with my Spanish speaking. I'm not very good at it, but I am trying, and they help tremendously. So.
Well, with that being said, we want to thank you all for tuning in. The questions you provided were great. Hopefully we were able to provide some great answers, some great insight. Hopefully you all take away the impact that NMMI has had on these 3 alumni, not just as their time on post as a cadet, but as they've marched forward into life after NMMI. If you have any questions, please visit the website, www.nmmi.edu. Any questions about the admissions process or wanting to apply, just click on the admissions tab, go to apply now. It's going to tie you right into a counselor that is set to handle your file based on your grade level. And then information. NMMI has a YouTube channel. We've got a Facebook page. We're on Instagram. And we're on Snapchat. So seek us out, find us there, add us. We're constantly putting content out there. We can answer questions through any of those social media platforms. Just let us know. The only question we can answer is the one that's not asked. So with that being said, thank you all for joining us. Stay safe and have a great night.